live your life, you know?
Yeah.
And if it creeps up, you can be like, no, I can't control it, you know?
Yeah.
Not my circus, not my monkeys. It's going to happen. And I would rather focus on living than thinking about dying.
It's okay, we're all gonna die. It's okay, we're all gonna die. It's okay, we're all gonna die.
Welcome back, everybody, to It's Okay, We're All Gonna Die, the podcast where we talk about death, but somehow it seems a little easy breezy, which is really surprising. So come along with us. Today I have the best guest in the world, one of my best friends from social media. You might know her as Hospice Nurse Penny online, Penny Smith to be exact. She's written a book called Influencing Death, which makes sense. We'll get to it once we talk to her. Influencing Death. She has a book coming out. She's has millions of followers on social media. So let's welcome our guest, Penny.
Hi.
Hospice Nurse Penny.
Hospice Nurse Julie.
Now, if you guys don't know, which most of you probably do, we are real friends, but we met via social media.
TikTok.
Yep, TikTok. And when I was up and coming, Penny was so nice to me and helped me kind of learn the ropes for social media. And we just became fast friends.
Yeah, instantly.
Yeah, instantly.
Instant friends.
Instantly.
Like, from day one, after you messaged me,
Yeah.
every single day we started.
We have talked like every single day for years.
Yeah. Voice texts.
Yeah.
Yep.
So in her social media name, it kind of is pretty obvious, Hospice Nurse Penny. Hospice Nurse Penny is a nurse, hospice nurse. So the first thing I want to get to, so people understand who you are and why you're here, is sort of how did you get here? You know, I know like your life story, which is in her book, by the way, which is amazing. But like, how did you end up being Hospice Nurse Penny and now being on this podcast? Like, what has happened in your life for that to go down?
Well, I've always been an advocate for hospice.
Yeah.
I'm just a passionate advocate for hospice. I've always been aware of the stigma that surrounds it, the fear around death and dying. So when I found TikTok in 2020, like millions of other people during the shutdown, I didn't have a whole lot going on, and I got on TikTok, and I first started doing some, little fun trends. But at the time, I was 57 years old, and that was back when it was a kids app, so my videos didn't go very far. But one day, I decided to tell a story about a hospice patient, and it went viral. And I realized that I could use this platform as a way to advocate for hospice and to help to remove the fear around death and dying. So I made my first video. I posted it with the hashtag #normalizedeath, and the ball got rolling. And after that, it just kept going and going.
Wow. And now you have millions of followers across social media.
Yeah. Yep.
Wow. And then you wrote a book.
And then I wrote a book. Yeah. So I started off working in hospice care centers.
Yeah.
That was my jam for a lot of years. And, really, I always call it at the bedside, in your face, death and dying, just daily. So a lot of exposure to death and dying. And it just really changed me. And I wrote stories about my patients back then.
Wow.
And I've always been a bit of a writer, and I just wanted to, finally put those words into a book. I had a lot of people following me saying, you really should write a book, you should write a book. But I felt like my story was bigger than just the patients that I cared for. It was more about the impact that they had on my life and the journey that got me to being a hospice nurse in the first place, which was, as you know, a rocky road.
Yeah.
So,
she didn't become a nurse until her 40s, right?
I was 40 when I started nursing school.
Right.
Yeah.
When she started nursing school. Do you guys hear that? It's never too late. If you want to do something, do it, no matter what your age.
Yes, definitely.
Yes.
And I love that. And that's what I've also really loved about social media and being on social media, is having people who are saying to me, gosh, I was inspired to go back to school because of your story, telling people that it's never too late.
And for Penny's book to me, which I'm ashamed to say, which she knows this, it's been out for, I don't know, a couple years, and she's one of my best friends, and I'm like, I haven't read your book, and she's like, listen, girl, You need to. And so I've been listening to her book, and truth be told, I'm almost done. But what I love about it is that you did a really good job about educating about end of life and telling stories about end of life and telling your story all intertwined.
Thank
so it's
you.
kind of like, it's an educational book, but it's a memoir of your life.
It's a memoir, yeah. I feel like it's about humanity. That's kind of how I look at it. It's about humanity, and it's intertwined in that way because that is how I was impacted by the deaths of those patients.
Yeah.
You know, that's how it changed me. And so the juxtaposition of who I was and then who I became because of being able to serve the dying, to me was important and inspirational, I hope.
To me, it was like hearing about. So, we're gonna get. So this episode is really going to be a lot of like questions from people who are our followers about death and dying, about hospice. I do want to get to that because a lot of my episodes are really not like that. They're mostly about like about living and how people live. But you and I both agree that like the more we investigate and talk about death, the better we will live, and usually the more peaceful we will die.
Yes, for sure.
Yes,
Yeah.
for sure. Right. So we're going to talk a lot about that, but also I do want to get into like some of the, if you're okay with it, just to talk about your book a little bit with your stories, because like you said, you didn't go to school till you were 40, right? Nursing
40.
school till you were 40.
Yeah.
And, you know, Penny has like an amazing life. She's literally lived all over the world. You have crazy stories about like who you were and who you are now. And it's just a testament to changing yourself. I don't know. So this might be a little too hard to answer, but is there a favorite story in your book that like is most defining of you? Or
I mean, I do have a favorite story, and that is, you know, when I went to jail probably for the third time.
do you guys hear this? This is what I mean. Like, that's amazing to hear that you went to jail for the third time. And anyway, go ahead.
I was belligerently drunk, and for some reason the captain, I guess he was the captain, he was in charge. The sergeant.
I love
in
this story
charge.
too. I love this story.
And
Yes.
he let me sit at the desk with him because Gen Pop, that's what we call it in the clink.
What's Gen Pop?
Generation,
general
population. Yeah, Gen Pop. Yeah, it was full. Like they weren't accepting anybody up there. And so he let me sit at the desk with him. And I sat there smoking cigarettes and chatting with him belligerently because I was just fucking drunk as can be. But at the time, I was stressing because I had a boyfriend who had been, I thought was probably cheating on me. And he let me use the phone. And he wasn't really paying a lot of attention to what was going on. And so I couldn't reach him, and I'd call again, and I couldn't reach him, and I was just calling, and I finally called, and a woman answered, and I just lost my shit. I was like really freaking out. And I snuck out of the police station.
Yeah, Penny snuck out of the police. She was trying to escape.
I was trying to escape. I only made it out the door until a whole bunch of cops grabbed me, brought me in, threw me in they had like a cell down there, threw me in there. I start banging my head on the wall, and he was telling me, if you calm down, I'll let you out. So I calmed down. He let me out. And then I sat there for the rest of the night talking with him and sobering up. And in the morning, he said, you are so bright and intelligent, and you are not the same person that came in here last night. What are you doing? And it really impacted me. Like,
Yeah.
I really thought, wow, yeah, I'm not that person. And it wasn't the last time that I drank. I think it might be the last time I went to jail. I don't know. I'm old, so I can't remember a lot. But I felt like it was a real turning point for me.
Yeah.
And then I ended up going into Gen Pop, and there were a lot of women in there, and one of them was a woman who was a heroin addict, and she had track marks all over her arms, and she was sewing little baby clothes, and because she was pregnant. And I just thought, wow, this is not where I belong. And it's not where anybody belongs, really.
Yeah.
Hopefully she got her life turned around, but I just realized, wow, this is not where I want to be. And so it did start me kind of on the path to recovery.
Yeah. That's so amazing. And you have so many stories too where like your mom, I feel like your mom was really like, and then I called my mom, and then I called my mom. And she really did help
Oh,
you.
my mom, yeah. My mom's amazing.
Yeah.
She's just wonderful.
And now you live with her.
I do live with her.
I know.
Yeah. She's 87 and she is just spry as can be. And she was a real inspiration to me. Not at the time, because at the time I didn't feel like she was on my side. Looking back, I know that she was. She was definitely a practicer of tough love, which I needed. But she was pretty amazing.
Yeah.
I could write a whole book about my mom. She hitchhiked across Canada when she was 17.
Wow. That is so cool.
Married my dad 3 months after they met. Stayed married until he died when he was 69.
Wow. Wow. Okay, let's go to the death. Let's go to the death stuff.
Yeah.
So what do you think? So Penny knows so much about a lot of things. Particularly though, I think you're great at explaining hospice. This is going to be kind of annoying for you to do, but can you tell us what hospice is to you? Like how would you explain hospice to somebody?
Well, technically speaking, it is a program for people who have a terminal diagnosis with a life expectancy of 6 months or less.
Yeah.
And it is comfort-focused care, foregoing any curative treatments for their disease. But it is, as you know, so much more than that, because really it is allowing people to have the best quality of life at the end of their life.
Right.
Whatever that means for them, and we do whatever we can to help facilitate that, be that counseling, spiritual care, medication, or any other treatments that we can provide to allow them to live their best life at the end of their life.
Amen, girl. Yep, like we're all going to die.
We are all going to die, man.
And if you know you're going to, for whatever reason, this is a great way to prepare yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
And have it be the way you want it to be.
Help with the bucket list.
Yeah. Yeah, we don't just let them, you don't need to just sit at home. And the whole point is so you do stuff if you can, whatever it is you want to do.
Those are my favorite patients. I remember pulling into the driveway one time at a patient. She had COPD. And she had weeping edema in her legs that eventually got so bad she had to have, like check pads underneath her legs because they were just weeping, right?
Yes.
But I pulled into her driveway and she pulled up next to me. Her son was driving the car and they pulled up in the driveway next to me.
Oh, I love it.
And she was so sheepish when she got out of the car. She was like, and I go, "Oh, where were you?" And she said, "At the casino." And I was like, right on, did you win? Because she felt like she was going to be in trouble for going to the casino. And I'm like, no, that's awesome.
Yeah,
I think it's
we
great.
want you to.
I want to go to the casino when I'm dying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My uncle Ed, one of my favorite uncles, is on hospice now. And they're in Pennsylvania, but they travel south to Florida during the winters. And they were so excited to hear that he could be transferred to another hospice while he's down in Florida, and that both hospice companies were amazing.
Yeah,
they did all of the, they just did everything that he needed to do to get the transfer, so he could be on hospice while he was down there. And then he came back. Now he's back for the summer months, and they're so great.
Yeah,
It's
I
about
love
living.
that.
It's about living.
Yeah, it's about living. Yeah, I love that. I love travelers, contracts. And I had a patient that kept wanting to go down to Ocean Shores, which was, doable because it was still in the state. And we were able to, find another agency down there to support, but we still managed his care. And,
Oh, good.
Getting together all the things he needed. He had a Plerex drain, so getting all the supplies, teaching his wife how to manage that so that he could go down to Ocean Shores for a couple of weeks.
Yeah. Penny. Okay, I want to get to I had people ask us a lot of questions online because I said, ask a hospice / sober person. So it's about sobriety because we're both sober, and about death and dying. Okay, this is a good one. We both can answer this one. Okay, so hospice nurse Penny.
Yes.
Have you ever had an unsettling moment at the time of someone's death?
Oh, yes.
Have you?
I have.
Okay,
have.
tell me.
Oh my gosh. I'll try to condense it because
You don't have to condense it.
So, when a person is dying, they get that death stare, right?
Yes.
Lights are on, but nobody's home.
Yes.
Well, I had this patient who was a sex offender. It was at the hospice care center. And he had cancer. I don't remember what kind, but he had a guard at the bedside with him because he was a prisoner.
Wow.
And he was actively dying. And I remember saying to the guard, wow, he must have done something really bad for you to still need to be here. Like,
Right, because he's actively
he's
dying.
actively dying.
Yeah.
He ain't going nowhere.
Yep,
and he
yep.
was like, you don't even want to know what this guy did. And so I was like, wow. And I did my job as a nurse, and I got him his medications as he needed because that's what I do, right? No judgment. I felt like, you're probably right. I don't want to know what he did because I want to be able to compassionately perform my job without judgment for this guy. I swear, Julie, he never got the death stare. Like, he was in there the whole time up until he died. And the reason why that impacted me so strongly was because early on, and I this is a story I told on TikTok that went viral. Early on in my earliest days of being a hospice nurse, I had a patient who was her daughter was a nun, and she had a lot of nuns visiting. And the last evening that I was there with this woman, a visitor came out of the room. It was the last visitor, and she was a nun, and she said, she's gone. And I said, oh, and I stood up with my stethoscope, and she goes, no. Her body is still here doing the work of dying, but her spirit has left. You can see it in her eyes. And so then I went around in the bed, and I looked at her eyes, and sure enough, I saw that death stare, and I really, all of a sudden, just had this belief that she was right. Like, the spirit leaves the body, and the body still does the work of dying.
Yes.
And so when I saw that with that guy, it was very unsettling to me. I thought, oh man, he's going to be in there for a long time. And maybe that's our punishment if we do too many bad things. We have to stay in the body until eventually the body decomposes and the spirit gets to be released. Creepy.
Yeah, I only have one creepy story, and I almost hate telling it because I feel like you and I both also believe that all is well, everything's good, it's okay. We don't have to fear hell, right? So
yeah.
I don't think this woman was going to hell at all, but it was creepy and unsettling because she was refusing Western medicine. Okay, whatever you want, but she was dying of a brain tumor. I don't think it was specifically glioblastoma, but it was something like that, in the family of that. So there's a lot of symptoms with that, as we know, right?
Yes.
And she didn't want any of the meds. She didn't want any seizure meds. She didn't want anything. She didn't want morphine. She didn't want an Ativan. She wanted to experience death as it was. She felt like she was kind of laboring with no meds or whatever. But I don't, either way, I'm not against that if that's what you want, right? So, but the further she got on the journey and the closer she got to death, she had friends there, not family. So friends her age. She was young. She was in her 50s, I think. And as the time went on, they would drape the house more and more with white sheets and making everything white and more smoke and sage and different things. And she used to put this black waxy stuff on her teeth because I think it was some form of cannabis. But she was seizing, she was unconscious, she was agitated, and there was more and more chanting and different things. And again, I'm not saying all those things are bad, not at all. But there was an unsettling feeling there. And I think it probably was just because she was suffering. I mean, clearly.
Yeah.
And she made everyone promise that they would never give her morphine, even if she was unconscious.
Oh.
I know. And she really, she struggled to her last breath.
Wow.
Last breath, struggled.
Wow.
It sticks. Even now, as I'm telling the story, I can vividly vision what she looked like. And then on top of that, what she looked like versus the house draped and all white, crosses everywhere. It was just
Scary movie time.
yeah, scary movie time.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah, that would be unsettling.
Yes.
Yeah. It is, that is hard to watch. Yeah, I hate to say this because I'm the same as you. I don't want to be scaring people into thinking that, not all deaths are beautiful. We know that.
Yes,
We like
yeah.
to say the majority of people die peacefully at the end. They're not afraid. It's peaceful. But sometimes there are times when they're not comfortable. It is too hard to manage their symptoms.
Yeah.
You know, they have terminal agitation or extreme pain or extreme shortness of breath, and that's always hard to watch when
Yeah.
we see that kind of thing.
In particular, if they don't want interventions for
Oh,
that,
yeah,
right? It's like
yes.
we can medically sedate you, we can do
oh,
all types of stuff to make you
exactly.
comfortable, but when you're denying those things, or the family is,
That's
when
when
it's
it's
hard.
really hard. Yeah, yeah. We did have a patient who, because of her religious beliefs, didn't want any medication at all.
Yeah.
And she came into our care center on a higher level of care, general inpatient care, which is, a higher level of
GIP.
care, GIP. And they have to, we're required to do interventions that cannot be done at home in order to keep them at that level of care. That's the whole purpose of GIP.
Yep.
And she would not let us do anything. And we ended up having to discharge her back home and say, we can't keep you here. I mean, we're not doing anything for you. She just wanted to not take any medication, and it was hard to watch.
yeah.
It's
What
hard
about
to see people suffer.
It's hard to see people suffer,
Yeah.
and that's what people don't. Well, you understand, but it's like when people say like, "Oh, your job must be so hard.
yeah, yeah.
You're an angel," and you and I
Must
both
be
are
so
like,
sad.
"Yeah," you and I are
Oh,
like,
God,
"No,
don't call me an angel."
Yeah, don't call me. Yeah, don't.
That's kind of partly why I wrote that book.
Yeah.
I wanted to. It really has been something that has troubled me for years, that people would call me an angel.
Yeah.
Because I'm not. I'm just a person.
Yeah.
And honestly, I think people like you and me and other hospice clinicians have a past that lends to our ability to be able to be with people.
Be with people and empathize.
Yes.
And the whole point of us saying this is that it's not usually so hard. It's usually great because
Yes.
most of the time we can give people relief through education, through talking to them, through medication. Most of the time it's not easy, but it's like it's a beautiful thing to witness.
Absolutely.
And every once in a while it's not, and it's
Right.
usually because of the suffering.
Right.
That happens not very often.
Right.
But it does.
And we need that because, there is no good without bad. If it
Yeah.
was always perfect, we would probably not, love what we do as much as we do. Or what I did, because I'm retired.
Yeah, she's retired now, folks. She's retired now.
Yeah.
And in her retirement, tell everybody all the things that you were
Oh
doing
my
because
God,
you're
I
amazing.
love being retired. It's awesome. Yeah. Well, like you said, ice skating, roller skating, circuit training, line dancing. I learning how to play the guitar.
Yeah.
Dating on Match.com.
Yeah.
If you're
She's single, folks.
Yeah, I'm single. Age 50 to 65. I'm willing to
like
go a
it.
little lower too.
Okay. Yeah, because she looks 40. So
Oh, thank you.
you're welcome.
I don't think so, but thank you.
Someone wrote. Oh, someone actually wrote, "I've overcome some fear of dying. Thank you." So let's talk about that fear of dying. Penny used to have death anxiety. Well, let's talk
so
about
bad.
that so people get that. Like you used to be one of them.
Yeah, so bad. I had
Yeah.
death anxiety so bad. Yeah, I mean, I couldn't sleep. It kind of came on. So, I wasn't raised with any religion, so I had no concept of afterlife.
Yeah.
Didn't believe in heaven or hell, still don't believe in heaven or hell. But about in my 30s, I think, is when it really started to bother me. And I would just cry. It was crippling.
Yeah.
I would cry at night. Like I was so afraid, what if there's nothing after we die? And my husband at the time would say, well, it won't matter because you won't know because there won't be anything, which was unhelpful to me. And so kind of one of the reasons that I went into hospice nursing, and there were several reasons why I did, but one of the reasons was because I thought maybe if I'm exposed to death more, that will help this anxiety. And it really did. And then as I got on TikTok and started telling stories and educating about death and dying, and people started saying to me, wow, I used to be so afraid of death, and now I'm not anymore. Watching your videos helps me to not be afraid of death. And I think it boils down to, how much it is stigmatized and how much it is, not normalized. In the medical community, death is seen as a failure. If somebody dies, it's not a good thing. And, so therefore we don't talk about it, and we're always going to fear the unknown. So if we don't talk about it, we don't know about it, we start to worry about it. Our imaginations can take us, beyond the pale when it comes to, things like death. And, the more you learn about it, know about it, talk about it, and accept it, and that's the key right there, is accepting. It's going to happen. You don't have to like it,
Nope.
but you have to accept it because it's
Yeah.
going to happen.
Yep.
You have no control over that. And once you can do that, you just kind of like put it behind you and live your life,
Yeah.
And if it creeps up, you can be like, no, I can't control it,
Yeah.
Not my circus, not my monkeys. It's going to happen. And
Yeah.
I would rather focus on living than thinking about dying.
Yep.
And-
And the more you, like you said, the more you say the scary things, the more you say, I'm afraid, I don't want this to happen. I feel like the easier you can get to acceptance by just saying those things. It's like the avoidance of avoiding,
Yes.
like makes it worse.
Avoidance.
Yeah. Just avoid. Don't talk about it. Don't say how you feel. But really, it's like the more you actually do say how you feel, even if it is like, fuck, I'm afraid, I don't want to do this, the better. It's like, good job. That's,
Yeah.
of course.
And
you don't want to.
in the end, my experience has been that people are not usually afraid of what happens after death. They get to a point, and they get to a point of acceptance.
Yeah.
I always think about, and this woman too, she had colon cancer, and she was on TikTok, and she made a video crying, talking about how, I think her name was Jessica something, and she made a video about how she had just been given a referral to hospice, and
Yeah.
she was crying and she was terrifying. Do you remember that
Kind of,
video?
a little bit, yeah.
She had like 10 million views on it back when 10 million views was a lot.
Yeah.
Jessica Christine.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And her
Yeah.
journey was just amazing to watch because she went from somebody who was so scared to all of a sudden living her bucket list.
Yeah.
And that guy
Yeah, who made the beignets.
and they had a Mardi Gras style party for her, and she
Yeah.
was checking off her bucket list. And you could see that transformation of I'm scared to I'm going to take advantage of what life I have left. And I think for the most part, that is what people do.
Yeah.
They still have the fears of what is it going to look like for me, that journey? Like, is it going to be painful? Am I going to suffer?
Yeah.
And what's going to happen to my family after I'm gone? But the whole worry about what happens after we die just seems to kind of vanish.
Yeah. Can you think of from the opposite of like an unsettling death? Can you think of a death that you watched or were present for in some way that made you be like, wow, if I can go like that, that'd be great. Or, something that moved you?
Well, the ones that were like that, I probably don't think are very memorable because they
Yeah.
were so peaceful, you didn't pay
Yeah.
attention to them.
Yeah.
But I did have one that, in the end, I've always thought this was a death that strongly affected me. And she was a young woman, and I do write the story in my book. She was a young woman who had 2 daughters that were in their early 20s, and she had been a single mom. She had lung cancer, and she had done trial after trial, and for 4 years was able to survive this lung cancer. And at the end, she had terminal agitation, and she could not get comfortable. I had her on so many different infusions. She was on, Dilaudid and Versed, methadone infusion, and we ended up doing phenobarbital injections for her. She did not want to die. Before the phenobarb started, I had her on the Versed for palliative sedation for her terminal agitation, and I remember her yelling down the hall. She was yelling, "I don't want to leave my girls." And I was just like, oh, it was heartbreaking. She just did not want to die. And her family was like, she is just suffering. So we started the phenobarbital, and finally she got comfortable.
Yeah.
And she just had exquisite pain, too. She had so much pain. She finally got comfortable, and her sister was my age at the time. We were in our early 50s, and I remember her sister saying to me, "Do we have to have a diaper on her? It's so undignified." And I said, No, we don't. We can put her in panties, and if she soils, we'll clean her up. And she had a catheter in anyway. And when she finally was comfortable, I asked her daughters, "Do you want to help me bathe her?" And they did. And it was the most beautiful experience I ever had. They so lovingly washed her hair. They picked out her favorite T-shirt. They picked out some leopard print panties. And they put some really good smelling lotion on her. And it was just an incredible, beautiful experience to be with them and have them do that. That is really probably my most memorable death. And even though it was not peaceful up until that point. In the end, it was beautiful. It was very beautiful to see
Yeah.
those daughters with their mom one last time, just loving on her. It was amazing.
Yeah, and I'm sure they remember that. It's so important to. That's why this is important to really try to learn about it, be there. That's why hospice nurse Penny and I are here educating about death and dying, so daughters and sons and family can not be so scared watching their loved one die. It's still super sad.
Always going to be sad.
Always going to be sad, but you don't have to be scared.
Doesn't have to be scary. That's my motto. It's always going to
Yeah.
be sad, but it doesn't have to be scary. And I get comments from people, as I'm sure you do too, when they see a video that's educational about something at the end, that they will come back and say, "Gosh, this has been something I felt guilty about for years because I thought they were suffering, and now I know that it was just normal."
Yeah.
And that's why the whole, that's really why I started the whole normalized death thing, because I was with so many families that were terrified of what was going on with their person, and I would say that is normal. And their relief was palpable.
Yeah.
They were like, "Oh, that's normal? Yeah, it is." They were like, "Oh, gosh, thanks." So,
Can we? I know you know that I know this. We both know this information, but just for people who don't know, what is normal with an actively dying patient? What's normal? What are we going to see?
Oh gosh. So, typically when they're actively dying, and we agree that actively dying is when they're at the point of no return. They're unresponsive at
Yeah.
that point. If they respond at all, it's without meaning or purpose. They are down for the count. They're going to usually
Medication or not?
medication or not.
Yeah.
Yeah. It doesn't matter, medication or not. They're going to, potentially have all of the same signs and symptoms. Some may have some may have all. But usually eyes are open or partially open, mouth hanging, wide. I'm really, as you know, I'm really good at faking death.
Penny's really good at looking dead. Yep.
Yeah. Color changes in the hands,
Yeah.
in the feet, and the legs. Modeling that purple or blue kind of marbled appearance. Somebody, my friend Hallie is a hospice social worker, and she said it looks like honeycomb.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a kind of interesting. Really cold extremities, breathing patterns. I think that's probably one of the single most scary things that people observe.
Yeah.
Are the breathing changes when they're not breathing for a long time, or they're breathing like a fish out of water, or they have the agonal breaths where they're just pulling on air and they're not moving any oxygen, and the death rattle, of course, which is that gurgling or rattling noise that people think is going to cause them to drown in those
Yes.
secretions, and we know that they are not. It's normal. They're just moving air over spit that built up in their airway. They're not going to die from that, but it is a great predictor of death. And that's kind of, whenever I'm talking about the death rattle, I like to kind of steer towards the upside of it, which is it's a good predictor of death. And so if you're wanting to know, and people really want to know, they want to
do.
know when
They wanna
someone's going to
know.
die. If you're wanting to know, that's a really good indicator that death is probably going to happen within 48 hours. And so, yes, it is a troubling noise to listen to. It can sound really horrible. But the good news is it's not going to last for very long.
Yeah.
It means that they really are close to the end. And if you are feeling like they're suffering, which they're not, but if you are, then know that it's going to be over soon.
Yeah. Okay. So someone asked me about should they go into hospice nursing as a new grad? What do you think?
So I actually am very strongly opinionated about this one.
Love it.
I feel like, hospice is very specialized. End-of-life care is very specialized. And we are not only doing skilled procedures, but we are having conversations with something that can be deeply fear-provoking in people. And we need to be skilled at that too. And you're not going to get that in nursing school. And I really feel like there are two paths you can possibly take. So I was not a new grad when I became a hospice nurse, but I almost was. I was, 15 months out of nursing school. I had worked in a family practice clinic for a year, which is like being a new grad, and then 3 months on a med-surg unit. But I was able to go to work in a hospice care center which, like I said, that's where people are dying every single day.
Yeah, you're around other hospice nurses.
Other
You're around a
hospice
doctor.
nurses.
You're around many the
Yeah.
patients are there at a facility
And
that you're doing.
you are learning a lot
Yeah.
under the tutelage of very experienced death clinicians.
You're right.
So that in that environment, if you can do that as a new grad, it's going to be far and few between that you can find that job. But if you can, then yes. But if you are wanting to be a hospice nurse who is a home visiting hospice nurse, I really strongly advise against it. Even if you have, they say they'll give you a year of orientation, which never happens. I mean, they always want to throw you out there as soon as they think you're comfortable. And it took me years to be comfortable. And you were in the ICU, so you know too. It takes years because you might see something once every few years or even once in a lifetime that you've got to deal with. And you have to have some experience to draw from to be able to deal with that, let alone those skilled interventions, putting in a Foley catheter, accessing a port, programming a pump, talking with the family about what to expect and normalizing death. That is something you really need to be experienced at before you're out there in a vacuum with no other support with you. And if you really, really seriously want to be a hospice nurse, like your heart is pulling you in that direction, it's better to take a little bit of time and get that experience so that you will be successful. Otherwise, you are likely to hate it, get burned out from it, and not end up wanting to do that. And we need people who are passionate about wanting to do end-of-life care. We need that.
Yeah. I think the same as Penny. Everything she said. Yes, I wouldn't, because you really are autonomous as a hospice nurse if you're going into homes. And because not everyone needs to have an ICU background, obviously, but because I had an ICU background, it's like I knew a lot of things already. So I was able to kind of, and it helped me talk to families because I've seen what it looks like to not go on hospice and to stay in the ICU and, quote unquote, fight or whatever. Like I knew the opposite of what, if they decided not to go on hospice, what that would mean. And,
right.
You just need to know, you really need to know your shit.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I usually recommend either ICU, oncology, or long-term care.
Yeah.
2 years minimum, 3 years would be best. And even med-surg, can work. But those three specialties, I think, are going to give you your best experience to be able to work in hospice.
Yeah. What would you say to somebody, I know we touched on death anxiety, right? But what would you say to somebody who's like, okay, like how do I work on, if they're not going to be a nurse, right? If they're not going to see death all the time. What would you say, like what would help them, do you think?
Watch Hospice Nurse Julie and Hospice Nurse Penny and read our books.
Amen. Amen. And just talk about it, okay?
And talk about it.
Just talk about it.
That is what I tell people is to talk about it.
Yeah.
Talk about it. Get in the conversation.
Yes.
That is the best way, honestly. And it's interesting because so I started working in hospice. I worked in hospice for, over a decade, really long time. Death anxiety went away. And then I went into hospice quality. And I was still getting some exposure to patients through like doing joint visits. I was still educating nurses, and it was kind of on a different level, right? Educating nurses about end of life and that type of thing. I started to feel that death anxiety creeping back up in me.
Oh, interesting.
And I started to think, maybe it's because I don't feel as connected to death anymore because I'm not in it as much as I was. And then when I got back on social media and started talking about it like daily, it went away again.
There you go.
And I used to think it was because of developing this belief of an afterlife, because I really felt like my death anxiety stemmed from that lack of belief in an afterlife.
Yeah.
And so seeing people deathbed visioning helped that. And I thought, how can I be helpful to people who aren't going to be able to witness deathbed visioning? But then again, through comments I'm getting, realizing that even just by talking about it, that people are telling me they're not afraid anymore. And that's where that acceptance came in.
Right.
The more you talk about it, I even think sometimes I'll even say, do legacy work. Do legacy work. I would tell my daughters when they were teenagers, hey, a song would come on the radio. Hey, this is what I want to listen to someday. If I'm dying, put this on my, playlist. And they'd be like, oh, Mom, we don't want to talk about that.
Yeah.
But I would talk about death so often, that even my daughters now who are in their 30s don't have any death anxiety.
Wow. Can you explain legacy work, like what that actually
Yeah.
means, what people can do?
So what legacy work means to me, and I think in general, is going through your jewelry and writing little notes about what's going to go to who, going through your
cool.
pictures and deciding which ones throwing out the bad ones, like which ones would I want. And you don't have to be, like my patients would be specifically doing that because they're getting their memorial together for themselves. They're writing their own obituary, right? But just kind of, so you don't have to be that specific, but just, over time, kind of writing a little note about something that's important to you. Or for me, my legacy work is all my TikToks, I have them all categorized and saved, and I've given my kids all my passwords, and each one of them has control over, a certain social media to make the announcement when it happens, and, that type of thing. But even like, your will, basically, just kind of what is your legacy? What are you leaving behind? And doing it with intention.
Yeah.
If you're going on a vacation and you're taking a lot of pictures, you can be thinking, this is what I want the world to see of me going forward after I die.
Yeah.
Are
you afraid of death?
I am not afraid of death. I was going to ask you earlier, do people ask you that? People ask me all the time, are you afraid of death?
Yeah.
I am not afraid to die, but I'm not excited about it.
Yeah.
I'm not looking forward to it.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to seeing people who have died who I love, because I'm sure that I will vision, because we see that so commonly.
Yes.
I want to see my dad. I want to see my cousin. And so I look forward to that aspect of it, but I want to live a long life. I want to see my kids grow old. I want to see my grandkids grow up.
Yeah.
And so, but I'm not afraid of it.
Yeah.
It's going to happen. I can't control it. What about you?
No, well, I feel like I always answer the way you answer, which I think I probably heard you answer, and I thought that's so good. Yeah, like I'm not afraid, but I don't necessarily want to tomorrow. Like if I got diagnosed with a terminal illness tomorrow, I would be a regular human and be sad and angry and upset and anxious and then peaceful and then anxious again and then angry. I would just have all of the normal human emotions. But generally speaking, I'm not afraid to die.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I hope that I won't be someone, and I know people like this, who has been an advocate for hospice, worked in hospice, and then refused to go on hospice. I know people like that. Hospice doctors.
Yeah.
I know of a director of a hospice for, I think, 30 years. And then he was dying, and he never ended up on hospice.
No.
He just kept wanting to go through treatment until the very end. And I'm like, oh gosh, I hope I don't be like that.
I know. Put our money where our mouth is. Not the same.
Take my advice. I'm not using it.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's talk about the myths real quick. Some of the myths that we hear all the time. And you really have been at people have come after you.
Oh, yeah.
Specifically.
Oh, yeah.
About hospice kills people. Hospice just gives morphine and they kill people. Mm-hmm. What do you say? What do you say about that? What do you say? How do you combat that?
We're not murderers.
Period.
Period.
Yeah.
Period. End of sentence. We are not murderers. No. So morphine it has such a bad rep, and unjustly.
Yeah.
Because it is a great medication. It works so well, and that's why we use it. And we use so little.
Mm-hmm.
If somebody has not had any opioids before, if they're opioid naive, we start them on usually like a 5 milligram dose.
Yeah. It's
less strong than a Percocet.
Yes.
And people will gladly take Percocet. They have no issue with Percocet, which is
Yeah.
oxycodone.
Yeah.
And that's actually stronger than morphine.
Yeah.
But I think, there are different layers to it. It's, older generation equates morphine to the battlefield, war, getting morphine, and then they die, right? Younger people are more, people come on hospice, then they start the morphine, then they die. They start the morphine because they are dying, and you get more symptoms at the end of life. They exacerbate, especially if you have cancer. So common to see a spike in pain when somebody has cancer at the end. We see that a lot. It's almost like the cancer just takes off and then they suddenly are having a pain crisis. And so we start the morphine and they die because they were already close to death.
Yeah, they're dying. They're not dying because we gave morphine.
Right.
They're dying
Right.
because
they're dying.
They're dying.
Because of their disease. Because we
Yeah.
all die.
Yeah.
They're dying because of their disease. Yeah. And
they
so
would die with or without morphine.
right, with or
Yeah.
without it. But the dose we give is so little. And you'd have to chug a whole bottle of morphine, and that even still might not kill you.
Yep.
You know, you'd have to take a lot. But the other thing, and the reason why people associate hospice with death is because it's this vicious cycle. There's a fear of going on to hospice because they think you'll die faster if you go on hospice. You know, so they don't go on. They wait till the end. They wait until they're close to death. Then they go on hospice, and then they die. And again, we have created this idea that you go on hospice and you die right away because hospice made you die. But we know
Yes.
hospice means a life expectancy of 6 months or less. I have seen a lot of transition periods, when people go to that kind of more dying than more living state that's getting close to actively dying. I've seen that last for weeks, but I've never seen it last for 6 months.
Right.
People who are 6 months from the end of their life are usually going to be slowing down. They're going to be eating less. They're going to be sleeping more. They're going to be more introspective and withdrawn, but they're still able to do things. They're still able to live and have fun. And so we want them to come on.
Yeah.
We want them to come on because we have so much to teach.
Yeah.
And when somebody waits until the end and we're trying to cram everything in we can, education-wise, it's a challenge.
Yeah.
There's a lot that we need to educate about.
And you are not going to die quicker because you're on hospice.
Absolutely not.
not-
There are studies,
There are
that,
studies
show
that show.
you can live longer on hospice.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Many people, Penny and I always talk about this. Many people come onto hospice and feel better.
Oh, yeah.
And get quote unquote better for a little bit because they're taking off all the meds that make them sick.
Yep.
And they're getting good pain control, good symptom management control, and they feel good.
Yeah. And emotionally, there's no more wondering.
Yeah.
They're not questioning, is this treatment going to work?
Yes.
Do I have to go to the doctor again? In and out of the ER. They're wasting so much time in, waiting rooms. And so they emotionally feel better too, which is so important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to tell you about the story because just recently, I feel like you and I both were tagged in a video a lot where I don't know what it was, but people talk about the last dose of morphine. They're afraid to give morphine, and they finally do. The daughter gives the morphine to the mom or something, right? And then my mom died. I feel like I killed her, and we know better that that's not true. What you did was provide comfort and care. Okay. So I just went to a patient just recently where the woman was definitely actively dying, but she was didn't have the dead eyes, right? So she was still kind of with it. And you could tell she was uncomfortable, whether it was because she was short of breath or pain. She was too awake for actively dying. And I could tell. I was like, "Ooh, she's struggling hard. She's trying not to die, right?" She's in her 90s. She lived a great life. She had family all around her. They were a little bit yeah, we gave a little bit of morphine, but that was 3 hours ago. They were kind of afraid to do stuff. And I'm like, "Oh no." So I called the doctor. We just increased it to 10 milligrams from 5 to 10, very, very little, and gave Ativan. So I mixed it all together, Ativan and morphine, gave it to her. And I will say, if I didn't know better, that girl relaxed and she died. And it wasn't immediately, but it was it took 45 minutes for it to kick in, and then she died.
It is unnerving.
And it's unnerving. And now with me as a hospice nurse, I know it's we just relaxed her enough so she could die.
Yes.
Because she was not relaxed.
Yes.
She was either scared or whatever she was not relaxed. So it's and I even said, because I kind of knew there's family everywhere, I go, "Listen, I might give this and it's okay. We're not quote unquote overdosing her, but she's so tense that her body will finally relax and she may die quickly after." Because I just knew, and she did.
And that is the key, that not overdosing her.
Yeah, we're not
You weren't
overdosing,
overdosing
though.
with 10 milligrams of morphine
No.
and 5 milligrams of Ativan. It's not,
Exactly.
you're not. But it is unnerving, and I have given IV push opioids and had them die right away. And that is, it's it makes you feel a little like, eesh, did I just do something? But in your rational brain, you didn't. But I really want to talk about the point that you made about her being able to relax enough, because that is something also that's important to address when someone is dying. If they are not relaxed, they're not going to die. If they are, agitated in the least or uncomfortable, it keeps them here.
Yes.
It really keeps them here, and not in a good way.
Yeah, right. No.
Not in a good way. And so if you're able to give them something to just let them relax, then they are able to
feel like-
finally let go and die.
Yeah. Yeah. But I was thinking of you when that happened, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is not so funny. I mean, it was beautiful, actually. All her family was there, and she got last rites and we got all these different things to go down on a weekend, which was really nice for the family and for her. But I remember thinking like, oh, this is what people are talking about. This is what I could see how the family would say. Then the hospice nurse gave medicine and
then she died.
And she died.
Yeah. And that will be the story that gets told and perpetuated, and there the myth continues.
Yes,
It'll keep happening. And it doesn't matter what medication it is. There's always going to be a last dose.
Always.
You could give somebody a Senna tablet and they die right afterwards, and they just died from a constipation med.
Right.
There's
Yes.
always going to be a last dose.
Yeah.
There's a last something always when someone's dying.
So the last question I have for you, which is a big one. Good luck. No, I'm just kidding. Do you believe in an afterlife? And if you do, why?
I do. And I do because of, one, seeing people visioning at the end of life, which is incredible and profound.
Can you explain that?
So people who are in their last weeks of life even can start to talk about seeing people who have died before them in a way that it's so vivid, you think there might be something wrong with you for not seeing what they're seeing.
Yeah.
Like, my wife is right there. She's right there. I see her. I mean, and they're so emotional and crying, and like, it really is convincing that they are seeing those people, or even pets. And so I've seen that so many times.
Yeah.
And then the reaching, which I believe when people are reaching into the air, they're reaching for those dead people that they see, or spirits, whatever you want to call them. I believe they're reaching for them, because a lot of times when they vision, they're visioning up above or to the corner of the room, up in the ceiling. And so I feel like that's what that is. They're reaching out for them. Yeah. So that was one thing. But 5 years into my hospice career, my dad died. And after his death, he came to me in the form of energy. And I really think that our consciousness lives on. I think our bodies are matter. But the energy that is our consciousness continues to live on, and I think we're all connected.
Me too.
So I do believe in an afterlife, and I used to kind of wonder about reincarnation, because I kind of like that idea. But then I was talking with our friend David from Dead Talks, and I said, the thing about reincarnation that bothers me is that I am not going to get to keep my past lives, because I don't remember any of my past lives. And he said, but what if when you remember is when you're in the in-between?
Yeah.
That's when you get to have all those memories of all those lives.
Yeah.
And then you come back and do more work to try to attain a higher, spiritual awakening, understanding, be a better human.
Yeah. Did your dad say anything to you when he came to you, or was it just a feeling?
He said it was time to go. And I said, okay. And then I said, but I have to say goodbye to my kids. They're going to miss me. And he said, no, it's not time for you to go. It's time for me to go. And I said, okay, I love you. And he said, I love you. And I heard his voice. Oh. I didn't see him, but I knew it was him. And he was warm and just brilliant orange light energy. And he came to my sister in a different way, and he came to my mom in a different way. So I think how we experience those spirits can be different for us.
Yeah.
But I do believe that we do live on.
It's so beautiful.
That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
I love it. So tell me, what's coming up for you? Like, what do you want people to know about your social media, your books.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, my book, Influencing Death, Reframing Dying for Better Living, is still out there.
It's
Anywhere books
amazing.
are sold online.
Yes.
There's an audio version too, which I recorded. I have a website, hospicenursejulie.com, and I have a lot of resources on that website. It's very, in fact, back to should new grads be hospice nurses, I actually have a page that's dedicated to hospice nurses with all kinds of tips and tricks for being a hospice nurse, and then lots of resources for looking for a hospice.
You guys, you hear that? Free resources. And Penny
Yeah.
knows her crap. I was going to say shit. Penny knows her
I
shit.
do know my shit
She
and
does.
my crap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, I interrupted you. Go ahead.
Well-rounded in hospice experience.
Yeah.
hospicenursepenny.com. I'm on all the socials, Hospice Nurse Penny. But I do have a book that I'm writing with my partner, and she goes by Hallie Hospice Social Worker on social media. She is a social worker with a lot of experience, 10 years of experience. So we have 30 years of experience combined. And we
Wow.
are writing a book that's called Death Happens, An Insider's Guide to Dying.
Oh, that's going to be great.
Yeah, it's going to be, it's a funny book.
Okay.
We say fuck a lot in our book. And we talk about poop.
Perfect.
Yeah, and wiping your ass. So yeah, it's a funny book, but it's very educational.
Yeah.
And from the standpoint of a nurse and a social worker. So that'll be coming out in June next year.
Wow, great.
Yeah,
That's amazing.
Very excited. It's been really fun to work on that.
Yeah. All right, guys, go follow Penny at Hospice Nurse Penny. Love you, girl. Thank you for
Love
coming
you.
on.
Thank you for having me. Now we got to go make some TikToks.
Yeah, girl. All right. That's it for today's episode of It's Okay, We're All Gonna Die. Love you guys.
It's okay, we're all gonna die. It's okay, we're all
Back
gonna
really
die.
hurts.
It's okay, we're all gonna die.